Oh, Mr. Sears, you're not yet on my list, so I'm going to need your P number real quick. So this is in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Shane Leroy Raymer. Leroy or Leroy?
Leroy.
Yep, okay, I like Leroy. File number 23-21665FH by Brenda Underwood, P41009, appearing on behalf of the defendant. And state your, I have Dan Gumtoe, but state your full name and your P number, please.
Your Honor, Nicholas Sears on behalf of people. Nicholas Andrew Sears. I am appearing under Michigan Court Rule 8.120, I believe, which is the observation of waiting for my bar results.
Okay, very good. All right, you had your hand up?
Yes, I fired her due to misrepresentation.
When did you fire her?
Over 2 weeks ago.
Was that in front of me?
No, that was in her office but the reason I fired her.
Well, do you have another attorney?
I will represent myself.
You're going to represent yourself.
Yes.
You know, there's a very famous quote about representing yourself. Do you understand that?
Yes.
That, you know, do you have a law degree?
This trial session immediately devolves into mayhem. In the face of severe allegations, Shane Reimer takes a risk by immediately terminating his lawyer and accusing the system of corruption. When the court questions him about his credentials, law degree, a college degree, a high school diploma even, Shane dismisses it, saying, "I don't need that." The tension rises and the hubris is unimaginable. As Shane transforms his case into a show, the courtroom looks on in shock. This is a hazardous gamble, not merely a show of resistance. The only question is how far he will push it before it all falls apart, because he isn't following the rules.
I don't need
Do you have a college degree?
I don't need a law degree.
Did you graduate from high school?
I don't need that either.
You don't need that to represent yourself? Okay. Do you have access to, okay. So,
I have evidence that shows that the description did not match. And
well, I'm not going to get into that yet. So you're asking me today to remove Miss Underwood as your attorney,
yes,
and you want to represent yourself.
if I
Do you understand that even when I have court cases, I hire an attorney to represent me?
Well, I can't trust anybody in this system, in this area, because they all seem to be working together. This case should have been resolved a long time ago during the appeal the first time. She should have objected when the claim was made that I matched that description 100%.
Okay, so Mr. Reimer, part of what you're saying shows to me that you don't quite understand how the court procedures work, okay? So your attorney has an obligation to ethically represent you. And so before, I would have clients come to me and say, I want you to file this and I want you to file that. And I would say, there's no basis for that. And I don't file frivolous motions, or I would say to them they have probable cause or whatever. So if you want to represent yourself, you can do that at your own risk. You have the right to represent yourself. But what I will tell you is that Miss Underwood is the bane of most prosecutors' existence, because she's a little pit bull and she doesn't put up with a lot of guff from them, and she's a tough defense attorney. So you may not like what she says, but I feel like she's always honest. So that being said,
The judge intervenes, composed but unyielding. Shane isn't paying attention while she presents the information. Because he doesn't trust anyone, he is certain that the system is biased against him and is resolved to go it alone. Shane refuses to change his mind despite the judge's warning that his lawyer is a ferocious fighter and a pit bull in the courtroom. The judge then cancels his jury trial and issues a bench warrant since he skipped the pre-trial, even though he believed that today was his trial. His defense suddenly breaks down before it even starts. The rebellion that used to drive him is a complete catastrophe now. He is fighting his own errors rather than corruption, and the walls get closer with each slip-up.
you can represent yourself, you can. But you understand you're going to have to file written motions. You're going to have to follow the court rules.
This is the trial, right?
No, it's a pre-trial.
How is this not the trial? I was told this is going to be the trial. I'm supposed to be facing it. I'm supposed to be sitting here with a jury today.
No, you're not.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Reimer, I schedule jury trials, and I haven't scheduled you a jury trial yet. Oh, wait. You're the one that didn't show for the pre-trial. That's why. Is that why?
Your Honor, if I could speak
Yes.
for a second. I think the first thing we need to do.
I'm
is
sorry.
address the bench warrant.
Yes. So, Mr. Reamer, you failed, he failed to appear for the pretrial conference.
That's correct.
All right. So everybody stop talking for a minute. So, Ms. Underwood, thank you for reminding me of that. Mr. Raymer, you had a final pretrial conference on December 11th, and we gave you a notice of hearing, and you failed to appear for that pretrial. And because you failed to appear for that pretrial, I canceled the jury trial because it cost me a lot of money to have a jury here. And so if you're not here for the final pretrial, I'm not going to trial until I get you here. So I actually issued a bench warrant for your arrest for failure to appear for the pretrial. Do you understand that? So Ms. Underwood's now asking for me to set aside that bench warrant. Is that what you said?
Thank you, Your Honor. He did demonstrate to the court that he can show up by showing up this morning.
Okay. So Mr. Raymer, so Ms. Underwood's asking me for me to set aside the bench warrant for your failure to appear on December 11th. Do you understand that? Speak.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And Mr. Sears, any objection to me setting aside the bench warrant since he has appeared today?
No, Your Honor.
All right. So Mr. Raymer, I will quash that bench warrant. And I'm sorry, I didn't look back to see that this was the original trial date. So that's my procedure. If people don't show up for a pretrial, I set the jury trial as the pretrial. Okay? Do you understand that? So that's why there's no jury.
Yes or no?
I did answer that.
So we're recording, so we have to hear you. So you have to speak up really loud, okay?
I said yes, ma'am.
Louder.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Mr. Raymer,
The court doesn't mince words. Shane's failure to appear at the pretrial cost him money, time, and the opportunity to have a jury trial. The system operates in this manner, and he is currently dealing with the repercussions. However, because he at least appeared today, the court quashes the bench warrant in an uncommon display of leniency. The true wake-up call then arrives. If he fires his attorney, there won't be a safety net or a new public defender. Everything or nothing. Shane doesn't give up though, and keeps digging in. The atmosphere in the courtroom changes from annoyance to incredulity. This is self-sabotage taking place in real time, not a legal dispute. He believes he is in control, but in reality, he is blocking all means of escape. Shane is the lone one hurtling toward catastrophe as the crash approaches.
so Ms. Underwood and Mr. Sears, this is a date and time set for pretrial. Mr. Raymer, I have your attorneys did file all the paperwork. Ms. Underwood, do you want to speak to Mr. Raymer for a moment?
Your Honor, I'm not sure that would do any good.
Okay. So,
If Mr. Raymer would like to speak to me, I am more than happy to speak to Mr. Raymer at this point.
So I'm going to quash the bench warrant. Mr. Raymer, if you want to sit down and talk with Ms. Underwood and see if you can meet a common ground, I would highly recommend that. You know, if you want to take 5 minutes or 10 minutes and talk to her, you can do that.
She's not going to represent me appropriately.
All right. So do you understand you don't get another public defender?
Well, I fired her and I talked to this man. Are you Mr. Glacier?
No, that's Mr. Glazer.
Who was it that was in the office with us?
That was
That was Mr. Malero.
Okay, Mr. Malero and her. Why was he in the office when?
Because he's
in the.
All right. So, Mr. Raymer, if you are firing Miss Underwood, or I can grant that, but I don't have the ability to appoint another public defender to represent you.
No,
They are a separate entity.
If I can't get somebody to represent me that's doing the job appropriately, then I will represent myself. Because I can prove that I was not that person that they're claiming.
That's what a jury trial's for.
Yeah, and when it comes to the jury trial, then I will take care of it there. But I don't need somebody that's not going to represent me appropriately.
Okay. Well, I really doubt that she isn't appropriately representing you, but so Mr. Glazier and Mr. Malaro, he's asking for me to fire Miss Underwood. So
If I may, Your Honor.
yes.
Your Honor, I vetted Mr. Raymer's claims about Ms. Underwood's representation. My understanding, she conducted a preliminary examination. She also filed a motion to dismiss, I believe, that was heard and ruled on by this court. I've not determined that she's done anything that did not require.
Shane is given one more chance to change his mind by the court, but he refuses to change his mind since he is certain that he can prevail on his own. In a direct response, the public defender's office states that they have followed all the rules. Evidence was examined, motions were submitted, and nothing was handled improperly. Shane simply dislikes his case's reality. The judge formally dismisses his lawyer, leaving him only in charge of his defense. That entails managing jury selection, filing motions, and following courtroom procedures, all of which he is not familiar with. The courtroom is in shock, not just tense. Although Shane believes he is making a point, he is actually heading straight for trouble. Now that he has lost his greatest chance at a fair trial, he is falling freely and has no one to stop him. This is self-destruction, not strategy, and the worst part, the only person who doesn't notice it is him.
Was not required of her. And so I denied Mr. Raymer's request to appoint a new attorney. For one of the reasons was that a trial date was imminent and it would be almost impossible for any attorney to get up to speed. Ms. Underwood is clearly ready to go to trial on this case. I think, as the court I think is aware, Mr. Raymer just doesn't like what he hears. So that is the reason I denied his request to have another attorney appointed in this matter, because Ms. Underwood's doing everything she can do on his behalf.
So, Mr. Raymer, I guess I would ask, she held a preliminary exam, which is what you do to dispute the charges, and the judge ruled, whoever heard this, that there was probable cause and bound you over, right? Yes?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then she filed a motion to dismiss, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And I denied that.
Yeah, because you was.
What else is she supposed to do?
You was given false information. All she had to do is object and let it be known that I did not match the description of the person.
That's for a jury to decide.
No, that's for the.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you were trying to explain the law to me. So if you do not want her as your attorney, I will remove her as your
I do not
attorney.
want her as my attorney.
All right, so Ms. Underwood, you are relieved of your duties. So Mr. Raymer, you can either hire an attorney or proceed as you are. So I will get another jury trial date. Mr. Raymer, you will need to file with the court jury instructions and voir dire questions, and those are going to need to be filed by a certain date.
And how do I go about doing that?
I can't tell you because I can't give legal advice. That's why you had an attorney. So you're going to have to figure that out on your own.
Okay, well.
I can't give you legal advice as a judge.
That's all right.
That's what Miss Underwood was for.
But she wasn't doing her job.
She did do her job.
No, she
But
failed.
I'm not going to argue with Mr. Raymer. So Miss Adams, I'm looking for a trial date.
Shane's self-representation crash course just took a nasty turn. The judge specifies that all paperwork, including motions, evidence lists, and jury instructions, must be submitted on time and without any assistance from the court. She cuts him off when he asks how to proceed, saying, "I can't give legal advice." The plea agreement is the actual shock that follows. 2 misdemeanors, including attacking an officer, and legal felonies. Means of escape. However, Shane, he won't even think about it. He is unable to see that he is outmatched and is too focused on disproving the system. No strategy, no legal expertise, just outright refusal. What about the danger? Time in prison. He is positioning himself for failure rather than constructing a defense. He tossed away the escape that the judge had given him. He is now getting closer to an unfavorable verdict with each mistake. He is running out of time. Shane is heading straight into trouble as the legislation continues to advance.
And so those must be filed with, you must provide a copy to the prosecutor's office of your voir dire questions and jury instructions, and a copy to the court on the 3rd floor of the clerk's office.
And that can be wrote out on a blank piece of paper?
No, they must be provided in full and filled out.
Okay, where would I go to get those forms?
There, you can do research on the computer. I mean,
That's fine.
this is why, Mr. Raymer, when you're dealing with a felony and you're facing trial,
Yeah.
it's important to have an attorney. And it
Yes,
doesn't sound,
one that's doing their job, yes, I understand that.
well, you haven't presented anything to me that says she hasn't done what she's supposed to do so far. So, Mr. Raymer, there's no legal services available for indigent defendants other than the public defender's office. And, you could hire an attorney, But these things are required. If you don't file them, then you don't get to add them the day of trial. Do you understand that?
What is that, the evidence? I don't get to add any evidence during day of trial?
Well, you must submit it as exhibits and witness lists. Have you got to exchange those with the?
All the body cam would be considered already submitted, correct?
So you have to provide witness lists and a list of exhibits to the prosecutor's office, to my office, and then you must provide copies of that to them.
And where do I find your office at?
Third floor clerk's office.
Okay.
Okay, but then you have to provide a copy to the prosecutor too.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll probably head over there for you.
But by law, Mr. Reamer, I can't give legal advice because I'm a judge.
Yes, sure.
Okay. So, Ms. Adams, could I please get a copy of this from Mr. Reamer? And I'm gonna put little asterisks. Do you want Mr. Reamer's file? Are you sure you do not want to proceed with counsel?
I would prefer to have counsel, but I don't want her representing me.
Okay, well, that's your choice, but your other option is to hire someone. Thank you. All right,
The last countdown starts. The judge sets April 22nd as the trial date and specifies all the legal procedures Shane must follow, including the due dates for files, evidence submissions, and witness disclosures. No safety net, no lawyer. Although he acknowledges that he would prefer representation, he maintains that he does not require his ex-attorney. It's too late. His fate was sealed by his own decisions. Miss a deadline, and you forfeit your rights at trial. The court cautions him again. This is self-destruction, not strategy.